Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel for the final video of the FPL 24-25 season. Abdul, pleasure to have you on, mate. Another green arrow, a massive week ahead of us. We need your expert tips and advice, as always, to tell us what to do this week. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Jack. Yeah, been a long season, and yeah, it's always mixed emotions and Game Week 38. You're kind of glad it's over, but at the same time, you know you're gonna miss it.
Well, it's been a tough season for you, and I don't know. I don't want to say like it's been a bad season because you're sat at 70k, which is pretty good rank, especially these days. I mean, I don't know what you think about in terms of how good a rank of 70k or around that is these days, but I mean, both of us finished outside the top 100k a couple of years ago. Like, it's very competitive.
Yeah,
But for a long time, you were not doing well at all, and you've had this sort of meteoric rise, dare I say it, up to a very respectable rank. So yeah, how would you assess your entire season? And then talk to us a little bit about how your Gaming 37 went as well.
yeah. I mean, I think if you told me I was gonna finish like around about 50 to 70k at the start of the season, right, I wouldn't be happy because obviously you want to get even, but you always want that top 10k, right, like as a kind of benchmark. But like considering how my season started off, I was like 4 million in game week 9. I'm actually really kind of chuffed with, my kind of comeback this season. And a few weeks ago, I was just like thinking to myself, yeah, you know what, I'd take a top 100k right now. So I'm kind of well within that target now. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just kind of relative, isn't it, really? I mean, you're always going to want that top 10k, but you've got to just play what's in front of you. And yeah, I think the comeback was, was pretty good for myself. I'm not trying to kind of blow my own trumpet, but I'm quite happy with how the season's gone from that point onwards. This game week was again, it was a good game week. Like 65 points is great, but that City 96-minute clean sheet wipeout was just annoying to say the least. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm on about 16 points behind top 50k. It's gonna be tough to make that, but if I have a storming game week, I could possibly get there.
I think if you had like a top gaming, you would have a chance of getting there.
Yeah,
18k increase last time from what 90k with 65 points, and 65 is a good score. So
yeah,
you'd probably need what, like, yeah, a really exceptional game week to get there. But you never know. I mean, the thing is, with 38, anything can happen, right?
yeah. I mean, and if I have like another game week like this, like an 18 to 20k rank increase, then that's top 50k there.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to hear your sort of like general advice, because you've been playing this game for a long time. You've managed through lots of Game Week 38s in your time. What overall tips and advice do you have for me and our viewers as to how to sort of assess this game week and go about managing it?
I think Gaming 38, I don't know if you've seen a Rob T's table, like, but in the last 5 seasons, it's averaged more goals per game than the rest of the season. But yeah, so there's been like five nil thrashings in the last 5 game weeks in Gaming 38. So the thing with Gaming 38 is, I mean, it's no coincidence that there's so many goals. It's the end of the season. Some teams are on the beach. There's some teams are kind of playing fluid football. They're not really got any pressure on them, and that's the games you need to target. I think games like, for example, Liverpool versus Palace, whereas both teams nothing to play for. They're going to want to just go out there and enjoy themselves. You know you're going to see goals in that game. And also, get targeting fixtures like Bournemouth against Leicester. Still the good fixtures again. Bournemouth, nothing to play for, but and with these types of games, you've probably got a chance of more rotation and early subs, but you're going to have that kind of certainty. I guess they're just going to play. There's going to be no like cagey football, and then like for example, Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. We know that's a huge game for both clubs. That's probably the game everyone's going to want to avoid. Probably the one likely to finish 1-1, 1-0, something like that. Both got so much to play for. Both got decent defenses. So I just think you've got to kind of look at each fixture and think what's happening in that fixture. Look at the story, look at the narratives, just look at what the situation is, and just kind of target that. And for me this week, I've been looking at Bournemouth players and Arsenal players. I think as probably everybody else is as well. they're the two fixtures I think that has the potential to get that massive scoreline for the 5-0 scoreline or whatnot.
Just want to give a shout out to Rob T because I mean, you've probably heard you guys, if you watch more than one podcast, you've probably heard him mentioned in pretty much every FPL podcast. He produces great content, but at Rob T FPL, just using his stats here, in each of the last 5 Premier League seasons, if you compare their respective Game Week 38s to the rest of the season, Game Week 38 has at least an average of 0.4 goals more than the average of all the other games. And that's at a minimum. At the most, in 21-22, for example, there were 1.1 more goals on average per game in Game Week 38 than the rest of the season, which is a crazy difference. I think the thing to do, perhaps, as you've just sort of done, is go through the fixtures and try and guess where those sort of like Moneyball fixtures are. Do you think that Bournemouth Leicester is the top fixture that could have the most goals in? Like, if you were to say exactly which fixture is going to have the most goals in, which would you go for?
Yeah, I think I'd go with that one or the Arsenal game, Arsenal Southampton. I'd
Okay.
go one of them. Just kind of looking at the numbers as well. Like even Rob T's expected goals. And Newcastle, I think, has got a potential there as well because I know Everton have got a decent defense, but again, they're on quote unquote they're on the beach, right? They've got nothing to play for. Newcastle, huge game for them. They need to win. So that's maybe one that can, have some goals in it as well. But yeah, I mean, I'd be looking at, just because Southampton and Leicester are, the two worst defenses in the league and the relegated teams. That's where I think I would be looking, and that's where I'm looking.
Okay, so yeah, talking about Rob T, let's just get one of his graphics up on screen. It's interesting. A lot of these games have similar sort of the games to target, which you just mentioned. They're all around the 2.4, 2.5 sort of predicted goals, which maybe makes it a bit harder to know exactly where to go. But let's talk about captaincy, because I do think this is one of the key debates, obviously, this week. Liverpool have the most predicted goals. Salah's still chasing that record, but they've looked a little bit off it lately. However, they are at home. Final game against Palace, who've just won the cup. Trent's final game as well. It looks like he's probably going to start that game, interestingly, just going off of what Andy Robertson's posted on Instagram. And who knows, he might get subbed on like the 66th minute. I quite like Trent as an outside pick if we know he's going to start. But yeah, Salah captaincy, or is there potential to go elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it does look like Salah is the best captaincy. Looking at those numbers, I mean, like we were talking about the games which might have those, that massive scoreline, and we're talking about, and it's Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Liverpool, right? They've got the highest. Newcastle there as well at 2.4. I mean, if you look at the markets are telling you as well it's going to be a goal fest. Even Brighton are at over 2 goals at Spurs away. So I think what you got to look at is I think the minutes now, right? I think with Salah, he's going to play 90. He's still kind of chasing that record. Slot did say that he's going to play like the full team, against Palace, and I think Liverpool are going to go out and just kind of try and blitz Palace. Give their kind of fans something to kind of sing about in the last day. That's for me the obvious captaincy choice. The thing with Saka is that, I mean, Arsenal have got second place confirmed. There's no real need to kind of risk Saka, but I still think he will start. I think, Arteta want him to play, but then there's the minutes, right? You probably get maybe 65 to 70 minutes, something like that.
Do you think it'd be as low as that?
Yeah, I mean, possible.
That is not good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can see it's the last game of the season. They might get, you might give some fringe players a wee run out, things like that, especially if they're winning the game. So
Yeah.
there is that uncertainty there with with Saka, which kind of puts me off the captaincy. Probably not enough to put me off getting him in, just because it's such a good fixture. Not sure yet, but I mean, Salah's like he's going to be annoyed. He's chasing that record. Last game against Brighton, he just obviously missed that open goal. He's getting in the position. He's getting the chances. That's all you need to That's all you need to really look at when you're looking at Salah. As long as he's getting the chances, and he is. So I think he is a perfectly fine captain choice. Perfectly happy. I think definitely the best captain of the game week. However, it's just about whether you want to chase or not.
Yeah.
I think if I want to get top 50k, it's going to be difficult for me to get that with Salah captain.
This is the thing. I mean, I'm I was keen to go Saka captain. I have been for a while on this game week, for this game week in particular, because I just think, if you're in that sort of position where you can chase, I think going for sort of, some upside and playing on variance in just 1 week is absolutely fine. And I
Yeah.
think for me, I would need to go something like a Saka captain to get into the top 10k. But you saying that you're not sure about his minutes, and it does seem to be yeah, the message that we're getting from not just like Arteta, but also sort of Arsenal fans in general. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, give Waneri some minutes. Why doesn't he
Yeah.
start? The season's done now." It is a shame, but
Yeah.
what do you think? Like, if I had to ask you now, do you think you might go for Saka captain?
Um, yeah, I think if I'm looking outside Salah, I think it's gonna have. I think my next best option would be Saka. And
Yeah, but that is not what I asked you.
sorry.
That's not what I asked you though. Do you think you will go? Do you think you will go for
Oh,
Saka?
do you think I will go?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna have to like just I guess look and because I've got two free transfers, right? So if I what I could do is captain Salah and then bring in like two different kind of differentials,
yeah, yeah.
kind of loaned to try and to try and get me there, or if I just go for like the template picks, and I could go for Saka, but I'm not honestly I'm not anywhere near captain decided on my captain yet.
Okay.
But the bus captain is on Salah.
Yeah, can't believe it. I thought I was getting a really political answer there from you for a second.
I
I was,
misheard you.
I was
Misheard.
like, in
Sorry.
Game Week 38, really? The Fed's sitting this much? No, okay. I understand. Let's talk about transfers. I think you're the only manager in the world with more than one free, which puts you in a really interesting position.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I look a lot depends on Isaac fitness, right? If Isaac is out, then of course, or even if he's like a doubt going into this game week, right? I'll probably just get rid of Isaac, bring in Evanilson. I think that's the kind of, I think that's going to be a popular transfer for a lot of people. And then Sar to Saka is what I'm thinking. I mean, I could go. I've got Semenyo and Bowen there as well. I'm less keen on Semenyo, but I do really like Bowen.
Yeah,
I think he's a 90-minute man. He'll be on penalties if Paqueta's not on the pitch, and he's just like their pure talisman. I think he's got if you're looking at the goal involvement, like a goal or assist throughout the season, he's the highest among all players in the league. So he's just, pure talismanic. He's got 12 goals and 10 assists. Just a great option playing Ipswich. But obviously, if Saka starts and plays, I'd even say 75 plus minutes, then he is the better option. But I just don't know that yet with Saka. So yeah, for that Sar position, it'll be one of, Saka, Semenyo, or Bowen. I have honestly been looking at some differentials as well. I did mention that, like, the likes of, Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes. These are options where nobody's going to be buying these players, and
yeah,
I've got that advantage of two free transfers where I kind of got that luxury to go for, and I can easily see Newcastle putting three or four past Everton, and Barnes and Gordon have been good this season. Since Gordon's came back, he got 90 minutes in the last game, so he's
yeah.
kind of looking good for minutes. So yeah, I've got quite a few options there. But look, I'm making no decisions like until all the press conferences are done on Friday because there's bound to be some kind of spanner thrown in the works because we're going to get all the press conferences on the same day. Game week 38, there always is. There's players, like going away early and things like that. And there's like little niggles, like, like kind of inverted comma niggles. I guess some players just want to get off early.
Yeah.
If teams have got nothing to play for, then I guess managers are going to allow that. So there's a lot of information to be gained from the press conferences this week.
This is why I like the Gordon shout, and I mentioned it myself in yesterday's video as like a potential real differential. I
Yeah.
suppose the only real issue with him is that he's not shown too much form since coming back, but that 90 minutes against Arsenal in that left wing spot is really encouraging. He is
Yeah.
one that if we might not get concrete news on someone like a Saka or maybe a Clivert, someone like that. He could definitely be an option. It's such a good fixture.
Yeah, it's a great fixture, and look, we were looking at the Rob T's numbers earlier. The Newcastle at 2.4 expected goals. The thing with Gordon as well is if Isaac is out, he possibly plays up top. Like
Yeah,
because Wilson's been terrible. So Howe just might not play him, and if he does, he'll be on penalties as well.
I mean, Wilson was so bad in that last game. He was really bad.
Yeah.
And Newcastle looked well. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they didn't look. They didn't look like the Newcastle that is going for the
Well,
Champions League.
first 20 minutes they were amazing.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
they should have scored. But then yeah, they kind of did filter off a bit. But I think if they had Isaac, they possibly would have scored. But that's just like ifs and buts. But yeah, it's an uncertain one with Isaac.
So
But
that
yeah, I
is
mean,
that is a very
I
good
think
point actually.
Newcastle players in general are good.
Yeah, they were very good for that. I mean, Raya had an unbelievable start to that game. It's a very good point.
Yeah, I think he made 5 saves in that game. I think they all came in the first half hour,
He did. He
and
did.
then he made none after that.
And then I saw people complaining on Twitter that they which I did this as well. I'm going to be honest,
Mm.
but I didn't complain about it because I was still happy with the points that I got. But they were
Yeah,
saying makes 5 saves in 30 minutes, then makes none to get that extra save point for the rest of the game. I'm like, yeah, he's still got 7 points, mate. Like you got
yeah,
to
it's
take
just
that when he should have got probably one or maybe two.
it's that perspective, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
before the game,
exactly.
you take 7, but then yeah, when things happen, like you kind of change you change your mindset a bit. But yeah, I was, to be honest, I'll be honest with you, I was quite annoyed at that as well, and the fact he got a yellow card.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh God, man, it's just so annoying.
Yeah, what can you do? I suppose at this stage of the season, like every point means it feels like every point
Yeah,
sort of means more. Um, we I mentioned it there, but we had a season. What was it? Was it 2 seasons ago?
yeah,
Yeah, where I finished 1 point ahead of you, and I was 1 point outside the top 100k. You were two
yeah,
points outside the top 100k, and we were talking before we came on today about Edison because we both had him in
yeah,
that game at 38 2 years ago, and he let us down. Similar to yesterday, it wasn't his
yeah.
fault. I would say, but I don't know. You want your keeper to make these big saves 1v1 versus the likes of Daniel Jefferson. No offense to him or his family, but come on, step up in those moments. Anyway, apart from your team, then I think your transfers. To be honest, I would have to go for Saka over a Semenyo, over a Gordon. I've got a question in terms of how you go about picking these players and how late to the deadline you do it, because obviously the deadline is different
Yeah.
now. It's an hour and a half before. In was it the case? Was that the case last year? Or was it this year? It changed. Actually, I've forgotten.
I can't remember, but all the games are always on at the same time, right? Each
Yeah,
game.
no, but the point I'm trying to make is normally you'd wait for leaks
Yeah,
if you're an engaged manager, and you'd someone like a Saka who's not 100% nailed to start, you'd be waiting to see if there are leaks or whatever. How close are you going to go to the deadline before making your transfers?
yeah. I'm going as close as possible. Like I'm going to be waiting. I mean, this is this is the game week of information, right? Like, do not make it any early transfers. Wait until that. If you can wait, obviously, until game FPL deadline day, and you're able to be around, up until the deadline, half an hour, 15 minutes. I mean, there's going to be leaks. There's going to be a lot of fake leaks as well, but you just have to make
Oh,
sure you follow the right people, right? We know who the guys are who give the reliable news, and I'm just going to be waiting as close as possible until deadline before I make my moves.
yeah.
So yeah, plenty of time to go for me.
If you want reliable leaks, I would say FPL Boona. He's the one to follow.
I think he's been banned now, is he not?
Has he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good lad.
After
I was in a
that,
group chat with him a few years ago, and he was a funny guy. He was yeah, I
yeah,
don't know. He just loves this sort of stuff. He was a good guy. I had some good chats with him.
yeah. I think after the FA Cup thing, the Cunha thing he did,
Oh,
yeah, he got banned. His account got removed after that.
that's a shame. I honestly do think if you cannot use your own critical thinking to see what is a reliable leak that you want to use and what isn't, and it's not that hard. I just have a few criteria of follow account. Are they reputable? Have they done something before? Which is sometimes hard to work out. Their actual username, like is there an I instead of an L, for example? I mean, some people still fall for that sort of stuff. As you said,
Yeah,
you sort of know the accounts now by this point. Well, if you're in that sort of Twitter space, you should know the accounts that are going to give you reliable info, I think.
yeah. And I think one tip I've got a list I've made on Twitter, like just an ITK list,
Clever.
and I just kind of refresh that on the deadline day just to see if anything comes up on that because I know everyone on that list is reliable. If you're on the main timeline, that's where it gets a bit dangerous.
That's very clever. And also something else that I would sort of recommend is if you have players that you're not sure if they're going to start or not, and then you're going to be sort of scrambling for options if you find out they're not
Good,
starting,
yeah.
then have that list as well of players that you know. If Isak is out, I'm going to Evan Nilsson. So you're not thinking in the last second, oh, do I go Evan Nilsson? Do I go Welbeck or something? You know already what you're doing. So you know if Isak's out, your moves are Evan Nilsson in, and then by the time you come to deadline, you'll know as well. If like, different sort of what ifs.
Yeah.
But if we hear Saka starting, Saka. If not, then maybe you go elsewhere at the time. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
make a flow chart if you need to.
yeah,
So this is
exactly.
it's going to be carnage, like it always is. Game week 30 at deadline is carnage, so you need to be prepared. Because I mean, we could be waiting for leaks, and then look for my team, for example. Like, what if Guardiola's bench or Ruben
Mm,
Diaz bench? That changes my plans completely. I need to like change up, and you could just get an unexpected benching.
yeah,
You need to
because
get fast.
most weeks you don't have that, and then you're like, well, if someone doesn't play, I'll let the bench sort of take
Yeah,
care of it. But
exactly.
this is
This
the week where you got to lock in and know exactly what you're going to do. As Abdul says, if you are able to at the deadline. If not, then yeah, that is a shame. And also, I do think that it is a bit of an unfair advantage for people that, especially are in the UK or on similar sort of in similar sort of time zones, to be able to do that in their afternoons. However, that all aside, your team does look good. I mean, it's got a 91% team rating, 59 predicted points. That is with Saka and Evan Nielsen in. Interestingly, Saka has the highest predicted points of the entire game week, along with Salah. I don't see it like that, sadly. But what do you think? Is it worth going for Saka cap if you're 10 points behind, 5 points behind, 15 points behind? Is it worth taking hits if you're chasing? How do you judge it?
I think it is. I mean, if you're chasing, right, then you go Saka. But also, you need to wait. Like the press conference could change everything. If Arteta comes out and says, "Look, we're going to play a full strength team, like business as usual kind of thing," then and it gives an indication that Saka's going to start and get good minutes. Then that changes things. He could come out and say, "Look, we were going to give some French players minutes, etc. It's been a good season. It's been a long season. Blah blah blah." Then that changes things, right? So if we get good news for the press conferences, then Saka's a great option. I mean, it's one game week. Saka could easily outscore Salah. Salah could easily blank. I mean, we know Salah's chasing that record, but he was chasing the record last game as well, and look, he blanked. So, yeah, I mean, if you're chasing, go for it. As far as hits go, um, honestly, I would only take a hit if you're really, really need it. I would even just play like a substandard option you've got on the bench if you can, rather than take a hit. I'd
Okay.
only be considering a hit in gaming 38 if like you're, totally, your team's totally decimated. You've got no bench. And I guess if you're bringing a player, you're going to captain as well.
Salah has 2 returns in the last 8 game weeks
Yeah, and I think he's got one non-penalty goal as well, right? Am I right? In the
since.
last day since in the last like 10 game weeks. Hold on, let me just check.
I think he has one goal in the last. He scored against
Yeah.
Spurs,
So
and he got an assist against West Ham, and he did well against Southampton.
yeah, so since game
But
week 30, he's got a goal and assist.
yeah,
Yeah, which is
I don't
quite
know,
believable to
man.
be honest.
Oh, I'm like at my rank. I really feel like I think I need to go for something. I don't think just captaining Salah would be enough for me. I think I would. I think I do need. It could be enough, and I'd need the rest of my team to do really well. But I
Yeah.
kind of want to put myself in a position to like know that I'll get there if I get the swing.
Yeah, because I think, look, if you're at 14K, if you go for Saka and just say Salah hauls and Saka doesn't, you're probably going to finish, say, well, like maybe 19K, 18K, something like that, right?
At worst, I could finish outside the top 20K. I could,
Yeah,
but
just even like a top 25K is great, right?
yeah, I don't really care about 19K compared to 25K. It doesn't mean anything to me.
That's what I'm saying. You see, you're in a great position, I think, whereas you've got a good rank, right? And you can go for the top 10K without having that risk of like, getting totally battered and, finishing outside the top 50K.
Yeah, yeah.
You're in a quite a luxurious position, I think. And in your position, honestly, I would just go for it. Like, see, if I was ranked, say I was ranked about 95K. I would just probably play it safe
Yeah.
because I don't want to finish outside the top 100k, right? Because I just, it's one of those things where it's a six-digit rank kind of, like a six-figure rank kind of thing, right? But in your position, I think you're in quite a luxurious position, whereas you can just go for it, and if it doesn't work out, you're still going to finish with a good rank.
So what are you thinking then at your rank? Are you thinking to go for it to try and get top 50k?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for it in one way or another. Either it'll be through my captain or it'll be through the transfers
Okay.
I bring in. Yeah,
Yeah.
because look, I'm in a position that I'm like 16 points behind top 50k. I think about 15 points ahead of top 100k. So, like, unless it goes really, really wrong on the last day, I should still finish inside the top 100k. So, yeah, I'm just going to go for the top 50k this week.
Last question. Are you starting Konsa or Ruben Diaz?
Honestly, at the moment, I've got Konsa starting,
Yeah.
mainly because I'm just like, first of all, really annoyed at City for losing that clean sheet. Secondly, Konsa's got a bit of goal threat. The clean sheet odds between City and Villa are about 3%. The thing with the clean sheets in Gameweek 38, there's hardly any clean sheets, so I'd rather just kind of spread that risk out. And honestly, I don't see City keeping a clean sheet against Fulham away. So I just start Guardiola, hopefully get some, probably some attacking returns. Konsa, I think I would not be surprised at all if they keep a clean sheet against Man United, especially if Man United win the Europa League, right? I think then they play a really kind of, I'd say, a weakened team. I think the team who wins is, going to be would play the weaker team in Game Week 38. They can be at partying and stuff, aren't they? Really, they qualify for the Champions League. So yeah, Konsa.
The viewers will know by the time this video comes out who's won. But I actually don't really think it matters that much because I've gone through the scenarios. If United win, they'll, exactly what you just said. I also think that like there's a chance there'll be a great atmosphere in the ground, which could actually sort of help them. They'll be like, oh wow, finally, actually looking back at this season, it's actually been we've got a major trophy qualify for the Champions League. If they lose, I think it could. They're not going to go like, okay, we've got to win this game now against Villa. I think it could be like really sort of depressing and negative in the stadium as well. So I don't really think it matters too much what happens in that game. I do think that Villa will win that though. And
Yeah.
I'm going to play Konsa as well for all the
Yeah.
reasons you said over Diaz.
Yeah, I do think it makes a wee bit of difference in the team sheets. I think if United win, they play a weaker team. If they lose, then Amorim's gonna be like, we want to at least finish the season with a win,
True.
at home. Whereas if they win the Champions League, then who cares? Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, if they win the Europa League and get a Champions League
Next
spot.
year, if they win the Champions
Yeah,
League, of course.
yeah, of course,
They'll be in it.
that's gonna happen. The Ruben
Okay, mate.
takeover.
Good stuff. I think that's a good little video there. I don't know. I always do this sort of like assessment myself at the end of each video. Just trying to gauge if it was good info or not.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it was good.
More of a general discussion because I don't want to go through the minutiae of every single player and every single fixture and everything. I don't think we need to do that. I think it's more general. Because I want to lean on your expertise. You've done this many times, as I said.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jack, you're there as well now. I need to
Listen,
be
mate,
interviewing you next season.
I'll interview myself. How about that? I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm good at the game now. To be fair, I think I know the game well enough. I had a couple of lucky ranks back in the day. Okay, 3K in 2018 was lucky, and then I figured out the game in 2020, 2021. I was doing badly,
Uh-huh.
and I remember when I wildcarded and I started doing well, and I chose my wildcard a little bit differently, and to be honest, went really boring and picked the best players that were
hmm
doing well. Iheanacho, Lingard, if you remember back then when
Oh
those two
yeah.
guys
Oh,
were doing well.
is that the Lingard season?
It was the Lingard season, and they were doing well, and I was like, why not just get the players that are doing well in your team and not go for like weird punts? And this is why I know people like you, people like Bakar, probably people like me as well, although I don't show my team, get criticized for picking like the boring players. If you want to be good at fantasy, that is what you have to do. You do have to be a boring manager, pretty passive manager, plan long term. The proof's in the pudding. Like, people were sort of mugging you and Bakar off earlier in the season for not doing well, but that's variance. And now you're both going to finish with very respectable ranks.
Yeah,
So,
and I'll probably finish ahead of most of those guys who are slagging me off.
yeah, 100%. 100%. Anyway, mate, good stuff. Thank you very much for that. And thanks for your help throughout the season. You'll be back
Yeah.
next season which is
You
great.
too, mate. You too. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you guys for watching this year. It's been a good one. Hope you've got value from the content, and we will see you at the start of next season as soon as the game launches. Have a good summer. No football. Relax. Enjoy it, and we will catch you in July.